You're listening to the Sales Chameleon Podcast. Smarter sales, stronger growth, simplified.
Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Sales Chameleon Podcast, where selling smarter starts. I'm Heather Coggins, and today we're going to be tackling not one, but two game-changing skills that are really going to help take your sales conversations to that next level. And so I'm going to be diving into the power of flexibility in your pitch and talk a little bit about how tailoring your approach to really match that customer's social style can make or break a deal, okay? And so I'll talk about that, but I'm not going to stop there. I'm also going to talk about the art of being able to read the room and really recognize when your pitch just isn't landing, and then being able to pivot mid-conversation to really get things back on track. So if you've ever been in a conversation that felt like it just wasn't going anywhere, or maybe you're just tired of those cookie cutter pitches that don't seem to connect with your customers, stick around. I'm going to be talking about it and hopefully give you some skills that'll be able to be helpful as you're out there communicating with your customers and your prospects. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So I want to start with the power of flexibility in your pitch, okay? And here's the truth, right? The days of, those old traditional selling tactics, that one-size-fits-all pitch, those pushy selling techniques, those days are over, okay? And so selling the same way to everyone is a little bit like bringing pizza to a group dinner without checking if anyone's gluten-free, right? Sure, pizza's great, but if it doesn't match their needs, and if there's certain people that can't have it, it's just not going to work out, right? And so each of your customers are unique, and their social styles are going to influence how they want to be approached, okay? And so what I want to go ahead and do next is really just take a quick moment to do a quick refresher on the 4 social styles. I go into these a little bit more in detail in some of the previous episodes, so if you haven't checked any of those out at this point, I would strongly encourage you to do that. But again, I'm going to do a quick refresher on the 4 different social styles. So analyticals are going to want details, data, and a logical step-by-step plan. Your drivers are going to be those results-focused folks, and they're going to be efficiency-obsessed. Your amiables are going to be the people that are going to prioritize trust and relationships. And then your expressives are going to really thrive on energy, big ideas, and possibilities. And so recognizing these styles is going to help you know exactly how to position your pitch, okay? So for example, if you're speaking to an analytical, you're not going to want to get too caught up in the fluff of things that don't matter, okay? You're going to want to focus on the facts. So you're going to want to make sure you're using numbers, you're using charts, or you're at least using some sort of evidence to be able to support the points that you're making, okay? If you're talking to a driver, skip the backstory. What they want to know is what's in it for me and how quickly can I see results, okay? And then as we get into our amiable people, remember, they're going to be more relationship focused. So you're going to want to make sure that you're building that rapport with them first, and then show them that you truly care about their team and their long-term goals. Okay. And then our expressives, they are also a little bit more relationship focused, but they tend to, be a little bit more innovative. So with them, you're going to want to lean into the excitement and really paint a picture of what's possible. And so when you tailor your pitch, it's not just about changing who you are. In fact, you shouldn't change who you are. You should always remain your authentic self. It's more about meeting your customers where they are, okay? In a way that makes them feel comfortable. And when you're able to shift your style in a way that's adaptable, it's going to become easy for you to do, and you're not going to feel like you're changing who you are at all. That's going to help allow that trust and connection to really follow naturally. And so what I want to do next is talk about what happens when, say, you're in the middle of a conversation and things start to kind of go sideways, right? I'm sure we've all been there. Maybe you're talking to someone and you notice that they start zoning out, or they're checking their phone, giving you short kind of clipped answers, right? This is where your ability to read those cues is going to come into play. And honestly, being able to identify and read these cues is going to truly help set you apart from your competition, okay? And so here's how you are able to kind of effectively navigate through those waters. And I want to start with verbal cues, okay? So verbal cues are going to be things that you'll actually hear, whether it's noisy, maybe they're just or they're giving you those short clipped answers, right? Pay attention to what they're saying and how they're saying it. Are they asking detailed questions? If so, that's going to be a clue you're talking to an analytical. And so, if you're realizing you're giving all kinds of fluff and things that aren't specific to facts, you might notice their shift in tone. And so you want to be able to identify that, okay? Is the person that you're talking to, are they focusing on quick results? If so, that's a driver, and you want to make sure that you're shifting to keep it more short and keep it direct, okay? Maybe the person you're talking to is using a little bit more emotional or relationship-driven language, okay? And if that's the case, you're probably speaking with an amiable or an expressive. And so at that point, it's okay to kind of take a step back and, maybe insert a little bit more fluff to the conversation and focus on those relationships before you start getting into the meat and potatoes, okay? And then secondly, you've got your nonverbal cues. So these are going to be the things that you don't hear, but you more so see, right? And so one of the main things I kind of think about when I think about nonverbal cues is body language. And body language speaks volumes. So what you want to kind of keep an eye out for is their level of engagement, okay? So are they nodding? Are they making eye contact? Are they leaning in? If so, perfect. You're on the right track. Most likely no adjustments are needed, maybe minimal adjustments, but that's a very good indicator that you're on the right track and that you've got them engaged, okay? Now, if you notice disengagement on the other hand, so maybe they're crossing their arms, you catch them looking away, checking their watch, right? That's your signal to go ahead and pivot. And so, if you sense that your pitch just isn't landing because you notice some disengagement, don't panic, just casually shift gears. And so again, with an analytical, if you notice that maybe they're showing signs of disengagement, check your pace, right? Are you talking a little bit too fast? Are you being a little bit too broad with the information that you're giving? So just slow down, right? Take a step back, slow down, and provide some additional details. With a driver, if you notice disengagement, you're going to want to cut to the chase and highlight that return on investment, okay? Otherwise, anything else, they're just going to think that it's a waste of time and you're not going to wrangle them back in, all right? With your amiables, try shifting to more of like an empathetic tone and try asking some open-ended questions about their team's needs specifically. And when you start, asking to understand and to truly learn about what's important to their team, that's when you really get an amiable to open up and start sharing that information that ultimately is helpful for you as a salesperson and kind of helps you understand what that end goal is and what their needs are and what they value, right? And then in terms of adjusting your approach with an expressive, if you notice disengagement with an expressive, you're going to want to crank up the energy and focus on that bigger picture, okay? I've said this in previous episodes. It's really easy to get them to lose interest, and they can become very disengaged very quickly. And so it's critical, especially when you're working with an expressive, to be able to identify those verbal and nonverbal cues as quickly as possible so that you can shift that approach and make sure that you're keeping their attention. And then you're also going to want to, ask for feedback, right? So if you're not sure, make sure that you're just asking clarifying questions. And depending on your social style, doing this might take a little bit more energy to do, right? But some of the clarifying questions you can ask to, kind of solicit feedback from others especially those that you're working with, is, hey, does this address what you were hoping to hear? Or how does this align with what you're looking for, right? And so when you ask those questions, and that first one was a closed-ended question, so you're probably going to get a yes or a no. Hopefully they might elaborate if necessary, but I try to encourage as much as possible kind of staying away from closed-ended questions and asking more of those open-ended questions, because it's really going to give that person the floor to just kind of share information. But I think in this context, either one of those questions would work, right? Does this address what you were hoping to hear? And how does this align with what you're looking for? And so what these questions do is it really shows that you're paying attention, but also, and maybe even more importantly, that you're willing to adapt. And that willingness and that level of credibility that shows that you're paying attention, that's going to help be the thing that really helps you build that trust and keeps that conversation moving forward in a way that's effective, meaningful, and kind of keeps the sales cycle moving forward, so to speak, okay? And so if we kind of bring it all together with some real world examples of how that flexibility or that adaptability might look in action, let's just say we're meeting with a potential client, okay? And they start asking, hey, what's the data to back this up? We know right off the bat, we've probably got an analytical, and we're going to want to make sure that we're showing them the research, we're providing a step-by-step process, and we're providing those proof points, right? And then maybe you've got another decision maker in the room that says, well, hey, how soon can I see results? All right, we know that person is a driver, and when we're communicating with them, we're going to want to skip the preamble and really dive into how the solution delivers fast outcomes, right? If you hear someone kind of jump in and ask, well, hey, all of this is great, but how is this going to help my team? You've got an amiable, right? So you're going to want to make sure you're focusing on the long-term benefits and how it really supports their values. And then if you've got that one person off to the side that, jumps in and exclaims, hey, this sounds like a game changer, that's an expressive, right? And so you want to match that energy, paint that big picture, and get excited with them. And by staying flexible and really tuning into, each of your customers' social styles, you're no longer just a salesperson that's selling a product or service. You really become more of like a trusted advisor who's building trust and creating those personalized experiences that really resonate with them. And that's important, okay? And so to kind of bring this episode to a close and bring it all home with a quick recap, I'm going to give you some key takeaways and then finish it up with an actionable item for you to go ahead and take what we've talked about and start practicing those skills. So I'll start with the key takeaways first. Remember, tailoring your pitch to a customer's social style is really going to be the foundation to help you build that trust and connection, especially when you notice that there's tension starting to build or that the customer may not seem engaged, right? You want to make sure you're paying attention to those verbal and nonverbal cues to really gauge that level of engagement. And if your pitch isn't landing, pivot, okay? Make sure you're adjusting your tone, your focus, or even the language that you're using to really meet your customer's needs. And then don't forget, ask for that feedback, even if it's mid-conversation, because it's really going to show that you're invested in their success. And it's going to show that you want to make sure that you guys are on the same page and that nothing is being missed. So as your actionable item, what I challenge you to do is, in your next sales conversation, just practice reading the room, right? Notice any of those customers' verbal and nonverbal cues. Are you noticing that they're engaged or maybe they're a little bit more resistant? And depending on where that falls, make sure that you're adjusting your approach in real time and then observing how it impacts that conversation. Because the more you practice this skill, the more natural it becomes and the better results you're going to see. And the more effective your relationships, your partnerships, and those customer interactions are going to be as well. Okay? So that's it for today's episode of The Sales Chameleon. Again, remember, flexibility isn't just about being adaptable. It's about being intentional, empathetic, and customer focused. Make sure you are hitting the subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. And until next time, keep selling smarter, stay versatile, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Sales Chameleon Podcast.